Up and running.
Okay, I think we've started the recording. Mark, you want me to go ahead and get started?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, this is Brian Yates, Schwartz, Page, and Harding, and welcome everybody to the Montgomery County MUD number 46 Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June the 16th, 2021. As in prior meetings, I'll briefly go through the remote meeting procedures and then perform a roll call. So to begin with, I need to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded as required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. Second, please remember to state your name before you speak, include the making of any motions. When you're not speaking, please be sure to mute your line. Third, we'll continue the practice of having a roll call to vote on each motion. After a motion has been made and seconded, please wait until you hear your name called and then respond with a verbal aye, a nay, or an abstention. Finally, we need to identify each person who's joining the meeting remotely today so that we can accurately reflect the attendance in the minutes of the meeting. I'll perform a roll call for the board members, followed by staff and consultants. When you hear your name or your company called, please respond by indicating that you're present in the meeting. Likewise, if you need to leave the meeting before it adjourns, please announce that you're doing so before you disconnect. Once I've completed the roll call for directors, staff, and consultants, I'll ask for any members of the public to identify themselves for the record. So starting with our board of directors, Mark Vonderow.
Present.
Margie Podjalinski. Is Margie in the meeting?
Present. I'm here.
Okay, I heard you, Margie. Thank you. Deidre Eklund,
I'm here.
George Newman,
Here.
Scott Custer.
Present.
Okay, that completes the roll call for our board of directors. We do have a full quorum present. We will move on to our staff for Woodlands Water. Jim Stinson,
Present.
Mike Mooney,
Present.
Maureen Bourgeois,
Present.
Shelley Lawson Kennedy,
Present.
and Jeannie Scott is out at CLE today. Do we have anyone else from Woodlands Water in the meeting? Okay, we'll move on to San Jacinto River Authority staff. Ron Kelly,
Present.
Ed Shackelford,
Present.
Chris Meeks,
Present.
Matt Corley.
Present.
Anyone else from the River Authority in the meeting?
No, sir.
All right, we will move on to MUD 46 consultants. Do we have any MUD 46 consultants in the meeting? If not, we will move on to members of the public. Do we have any members of the public present in the meeting? We need to identify you for the record as well. Maureen, does that cover everyone who appears to be logged into the meeting?
Yes, it does.
All right, that completes the roll call. Mark, I'll hand it over to you to begin the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. No comments from the public as stated by Maureen, no one online, so we'd cross out 2 and go to 3. Consider an act on request from a resident at 10 South Spring Brook Court. Hello, Mr. Mooney.
Hello, this is Mike. The resident was supposed to be attending this meeting. If you notice in your packet, the billing worksheet, we've adjusted her bill per the policy down about refunded her about almost $500. The bill is $781, so she still owes about $280. But she wanted to come to the board to address the board to get more money. I guess she did not make it, or what to tell you now. She's not here.
Okay.
Is the primary amount in question the wholesale rate that is not forgiven, the wholesale San Jacinto River Authority rate?
Just wants more money.
So we adjusted it down to the wholesale rate and she wants additional
That's correct.
relief. Okay.
How much more additional relief? Do you have a specific request that she's made?
This is Mike. No, that she wants to go back to her normal monthly bill, which is about about $60 a month.
Should we hold this item and see if she calls in? And if not, hold it on till next month?
I can go along with that.
Their issue may be because they're elderly, they're in their late 80s. They may not be familiar with how to Zoom and all that. So I'm not sure, but I'm just speculating.
Would you want to give her a call and see if she can just call in, do a voice connection?
We did give her the number to call in because I don't think she was comfortable with the Zoom, but I guess that didn't work out.
Okay.
I think if we offered, to give her another maybe $200 off the bill, maybe make her bill $60 or $80, she would be happy.
So
Go ahead, George.
what actually happened? It looks like what I could tell was the sprinkler system failed and gushed a lot of water.
Yeah, so it looks like she probably did not drain the backflow. Again, they're elderly, probably didn't know what to do. The backflow froze, and when it finally thawed out, she consumed a bunch of water before she realized it.
This is Mark. Mike, in your experience, do you think the amount of water she used was the backflow problem? I mean, is it that,
Absolutely. We had, if not hundreds, at least, if not dozens of the same situations.
Okay. So confident it's backflow and not leaving faucets running in the kitchen sink.
Oh, no, they fixed the sprinkler system.
Got a repair bill for the
Yeah.
backflow, and
Yeah.
99.9%.
Okay. So within the policies established for Woodlands Water, we have refunded her the maximum within and what is appropriate as defined in the policies. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. So in order to do anything additional, it'd be an exception, and Lord knows how many situations like this there are or will be. So I would, I just want to be sure that within the context of what we can do, we have done it. Okay. So even if she came here, I don't know that would change. So it's effectively an ask to go out of policy based on some budgetary concerns that this person has.
Have we gone out of policy before for these requests?
District has, at least since I've been here.
I didn't catch the first part.
Yes, we have, all districts have, including your district, we've gone outside the policy for certain special cases.
Mhm.
How unusual is this amount versus the others where there've been failures in the freeze?
George, we've had people that weren't even home, so this is kind of in the middle. We've had people that were home and caught it, heard it. We've had people that didn't hear it for a day or two, and we've had people that were out of town and didn't hear it for 5 days. So it's
Yeah.
kind of middle of the road.
And the smart meter should help with this, right? Like it'll send an alert when you can set parameters.
Again, they're late 80s, but for the majority, yes.
You have a smart meter?
Okay. I recommend we move on. I think we've got all the information we can get here. Unless we need to vote now, unless anyone, if there's more information, anyone wants to hear from this person directly.
This is Mike. If anybody wants to make a recommendation, I can at least tell her the board offered this since you weren't there. If not, you can come back next month.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm inclined to just, you know, we've rebated her within the policy. I'm inclined to recommend we decline. As heartless as that sounds.
I think we
But-
have gone outside the policy. Mike, is this, $200 outside the policy, is that unusual? Is that too much? Is that too?
No, we've done tens of dollars to, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, especially on vacant properties, for sale properties. It's just a case by case. $200 is not an exorbitant amount that we've done before, or that the Woodlands has done before.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying, Scott. I guess I'd be more inclined to chalk it up, to write it off. I mean, I don't know what the likelihood is of them paying it or not, or if it's just going to be an outstanding part of the bill. That's just my suggestion.
Well, this is Mark. Based upon my conversations with past customers, I still have about a 5-minute voicemail from somebody that said that they were going to sue the district and we were antiquated and our system was horrible and blah, 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 blah. And she didn't sound like she was in her 80s to me. I'm inclined to refund these elderly people the money. I think it's totally in our discretion. I'm even prepared to pay some out of my own pocket towards their bill. So somebody
Yeah.
make a motion.
Yeah, look, Mark, I totally get it. I do think we need to move on from this topic. Like we spent a lot of time. I think all of us are struggling with the same thing, which is, there looks like there's a bad, dire financial situation. I'm with you, Mark. I would literally be willing to reach out to this person and pay for that bill out of my own pocketbook, like done. But, this is not the first time we've run into a situation where somebody's unhappy with our policy and how we refund, but the policy is in fact the policy. I would suggest that if our policy needs to be looked at, like there's a different way to true up or offer a refund, like that's a separate action. But if we offer an exception here, it's a very slippery slope. So I would recommend that we decline. And then if anybody's compelled personally, that's another thing. But doing a charitable action with ratepayer money seems to be a slippery slope.
Okay, with that being said, I'll make a motion that we leave her discount at the wholesale rate and the bill as adjusted down to the wholesale rate will stand.
This is Scott, I would second that.
Any more discussion? That being said, I'll call a vote. Mark Bondurot, aye. Scott Custer,
Aye.
Margie Podolinsky,
Aye.
George Newman,
Aye.
and Deidre Eklund.
I'm going to have to say no.
Okay.
And let me just tell you what I think in light of this action, what we certainly should do and can do is offer an extended payment plan. We are happy to do that. So Mike, or whoever visits with this person, provide an extended payment plan to pay out that bill.
Okay.
Yep, happy to do that.
Okay. Motion passed. Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything else, Mike? Nothing?
This is Mike. No, that was the only one. Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to our consent agenda, items 5 through 9. Anything need to be pulled out and talked about or approved separately?
Mm-mm.
Scott, none here.
Okay,
You need a motion to accept the consent agenda?
yes, sir, I do.
I make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second, Margie.
Thank you, Margie. All right, any discussion? Okay. Mark Bonderow, aye. Scott Custer,
Aye.
Margie Podzalinski,
Aye.
George Newman,
Aye.
Deidre Eklund.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 10, receive the San Jacinto River Authority Woodlands Division report. Hello, Chris.
This is Matt Corley. Good afternoon, directors. Page 22 of your packet, you'll find the Woodlands Monthly Operations Report. I'd like to highlight our blend ratio average fiscal year to date is 49% groundwater to 51% surface water. Also, there were no permit violations for the month of May. Be happy to answer any other questions regarding the report if you have any.
Mm-mm.
If not, I'll turn it over to Ron Kelling. I know he has some comments he'd like to make.
This is Scott. I just, if you don't mind, forgive
Yes,
me.
sir.
That's not a question to you. I just pointed out the question I asked in the trustees meeting, and that was the trend to get to the intended blend of 60-40. Matt, would you mind giving the same answer you gave me last week?
Absolutely. So our water demand as we enter the summer months will increase. And that additional demand will be met up with groundwater. And so you'll see that blend ratio come into more of what we projected, which was the 65-35 blend, 65% groundwater, 35% surface water.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, y'all talked about giving us a pricing for a 50-50 mix. And I saw in your budget proposal right up there, it doesn't mention anything about that.
So what the holdup was the GRP approving their budget and rates, which has been done. And so there is currently a 50-50 or additional surface water fee being looked at. And I believe Chris,
Yeah, I'll,
be bringing that in July.
no. Before we go down that path, there's a lot of hurdles we have to cross and everything else, and it does need to go through a rate consultant first. So the budget that was presented is a 65-35 blend with 65% groundwater, 35% surface water. And then maybe later in the fall or sometime, once it goes to the rate consultant and everything else, we can look to bring that back at that time.
So who is the rate consultant? Is it you hire somebody or how does that work?
Yes, we've previously at GRP used a company called, or a consultant called Raftellus. They've done the 2 previous rate studies at GRP. So we'd look to them to potentially do this study as well.
And if I could add regarding the GMA 14, I really appreciate those of you who provided comments, who showed up at Lone Star's public hearing. I know Deidre and George were there, provided comments. We appreciate that. As y'all know, those of you who were there, the visitors were almost all Woodlands, which is great. So just to remind everybody that written comment period is still open until July the 19th. GMA 14 will vote on the DFC's it has been scheduled for October the 6th. There's discussion that that's going to be at a different time and a different date because of conflicts of schedules for some of the other GCDs, general managers. Once we find out what that time and date is, we will let y'all know. But again, we really appreciate y'all's participation in the process to date, which is seems like it's been years. Any questions?
Ron, I heard from a real reputable source that the PAM 68 is owned by the Lone Star District, but they are not monitoring it. And what I heard was that the data is being collected by the SJRA. And I was wondering, is that true?
No, the River Authority is not collecting any data on any PAM site at all. I know on PAM site 13, there's a gap. You'll see the gap in there, and Lone Star was not collecting data on that one. And
the gap is there on 68 also.
Yeah, and I don't know about 68, but I know on 13, the subsidence district has taken that back because Lone Star wasn't collecting the data. But no, we are not collecting any data on any PAM site.
Okay, thank you.
It's primarily subsidence district. There are some that U of H is collecting on. Any other?
I mentioned that this is Ed Shackelford. I got a copy of a letter that Lone Star has sent out to some of the permittees within the Lone Star District, where they're basically asking if that permittee would like to come in and meet with a couple of the Lone Star board members to talk about the DFC process and what Lone Star is trying to accomplish. And I know we're meeting with a couple of people to give them a little bit of information, but just in case, Jim, you get a copy of the letter or get a letter from Lone Star, they are starting to contact the various permittees to do a one-on-one session.
This is Scott. Permittees above some volume, some tier?
I'm assuming any, and the letter is uncertain in who. The letter I have is a copy to City of Montgomery. So they're probably talking to the larger users.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? For the River Authority? Interesting comment, George, interesting comment. Glad you got your contacts out there.
I'm hearing things. I needed to verify that one.
That's good, that's good. Keep us in the loop, George, keep us in the loop. All right, Mr. Yates, you there?
Yes, sir. This is Brian. Under the attorney's report, been updating boards on where we stand with remote to in-person meeting transition. So the governor, again, renewed the disaster proclamation for the related to COVID that results in the suspension of the in-person meeting requirements under the Texas Open Meetings Act again last Monday. Those are renewed, as I think we've talked about several times over the last year and a half. Those are renewed in 30-day intervals. So this most recent extension will expire shortly before our next Woodlands Water meeting cycle. I have not gotten any indication as to exactly when that's going to be lifted, but common sense says that it's going to be sooner rather than later at this point, with cases being as low as they are for as long as they have been. So we are in contact with the governor's office and have been assured that we will get advance notice before that proclamation is lifted so that we can have an orderly transition of our district clients from remote to in-person meetings. That being said, we are going ahead and making arrangements for our districts that meet at our office for their board meetings to have the availability to hold those meetings in person beginning in September after Labor Day. For the Woodlands that meet at the administrative building here in town, we are looking at a somewhat more accelerated schedule for the transition from remote to in-person. The trustees voted last week to hold their next board meeting in person for the July meeting. And then the trustees also voted to recommend that the districts consider moving their meetings to in-person beginning in August. And the thought process behind that was to allow for there to be 1 month of kind of a soft transition, one meeting there through Woodlands Water, kind of get reacclimated to the in-person meeting process, make sure there's no hiccups or issues or concerns by people, health concerns or otherwise, and then we would move forward with the remainder of the MUD meetings if directors so chose in August. Now, there was some discussion, and Scott, I know you were a part of that districts do have discretion as to when they would decide to meet in person. We do have a separate agenda item on this district's agenda about that issue and can discuss it more there. But districts do have discretion if they would like to accelerate that further, and staff feels that they could accommodate that, then we could consider that as well. But the recommendation from the trustees was for districts to consider at their July meeting to vote on going back in person in August. So that's where we stand from a transition perspective at this point. There have been a few questions from directors here and there about the ability of districts once they go back in person to have a kind of a dual functionality where you would have some directors who may participate in person while others participated remotely. And the answer to that is a hair long-winded, but basically, if you are back in person and you have a quorum in person, you cannot rely on the suspension of the In-Person Meeting Act to allow for other directors to participate remotely. The suspension of the in-person requirements was as to 551-125 of the Open Meetings Act, which actually allows for telephone conference call meetings in an emergency event. And that is only if it's difficult or impossible to have a quorum in place at one location. If you actually have a quorum in place at one location, then you are not able to rely on that provision to hold your meeting remotely. However, there is a separate provision that's been in place for a handful of years now that does allow for remote video conference meetings by districts, and that's regardless of COVID or disaster proclamations or any of that stuff. And when that bill first came out, we did take a look at it at Woodlands Water with staff to see if it was feasible or cost effective to be able to implement that for our Woodlands Water meetings or trustee or board meetings, MUD board meetings. And at the time, ultimately, staff had come to the conclusion that it would be it would not be cost effective to obtain the equipment and capabilities necessary to comply with the requirements of that statute. Now, fast forward to where we are now, post COVID, and everybody has had to figure out how to handle remote meetings in some form or fashion. and it may be possible. The technology is certainly sped up in terms of what is
Zoom.
available for video conference meetings, and it may be possible to implement that for districts that would like to have that option available. The items of note on that, if a district were to go in that direction, is that one, the statute requires that you have a quorum of the district of the district's board present at the in-person meeting location at all times during the meeting. And two, it requires that the meeting be by video conference, so audio and visual. During the COVID pandemic, the provision that we've been working under, 125, is technically for telephone conference calls. So that's why we started with conference calls and we added Zoom. Some districts added Zoom voluntarily, but they had to keep a conference call functionality because technically the statute that they're availing themselves of is to be able to hold those meetings by remote telephone conference call. So you would not have the ability, a director would not have the ability to participate solely by conference call under that separate provision of 127. So those are things that we will be looking at as we go back to in-person meetings. I don't think there's a decision imminent on that item at this time, but it has been asked by a few directors and is being reevaluated to see if that's something that could be offered once we're back in an in-person meeting environment. So I think that pretty well covers the territory on our transition at this point. Happy to answer any questions if y'all have them.
Does that conclude your report, Brian? Anything?
Yes, sir. If there's no questions, that does conclude my report. Thank you.
Any questions, guys and girl? Got the S, girls. Okay. All right. Let's go to 13. And the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election.
This is your opportunity to put forth a name that would be on the ballot for the special purpose district representative on MCAD. Arthur Bredehoff, former MUD 47 resident, former MCAD board member, has offered to serve and represent the Woodlands MUDs. Unless you have another name you'd like to put on that resolution, we'd recommend you adopt a resolution supporting Arthur Bredehoff.
Have all the other boards nominated Arthur? Anybody else been nominated?
Every board before you, yes, sir.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Mark,
Yes, go
motion.
ahead, Martin.
I'll make that support Arthur on the MCAD ballot. This is Margie.
Okay, thank you, Margie. Do we have a second? By anybody else?
This is Scott. I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'll call the vote. Mark Monroe, aye. Margie Podolinsky,
Aye.
George Newman,
Aye.
Deidre Eklund,
Aye.
Scott Custer.
Aye.
Thank you very much. 14, consider an act on holding future in-person board meetings.
This is Scott. That's probably me. So you heard Brian's commentary on the discussion in the trustees meeting, which was to resume in person for the trustees and then recommend that the MUD boards wait until August. And I was, two things you should know. Number one, I was the one no vote against recommending that the boards wait until August. And I was the one that was asking the questions around, is there any, does the trustee board have specific oversight to preclude the boards? And whether or not staff could support a board meeting. And my sole intent there is, you know, absent of a really strong reason, is to enable each MUD board to make their own decision. And I have no earthly idea if any other MUD boards had voted or considered a motion to vote to start in July. But I would like this board to consider meeting in person in July. And so I at least want to put that out for a vote because I see no reason not to.
Is that in the form of a motion?
I would move that this board meet in person in July.
Okay. I need a second.
Well, I'll second it with the idea we can have a discussion then.
That's normally where we discuss it, is after the second. So go ahead and discuss, George.
Well, I was wondering, we haven't heard any feedback from Jim. Did anybody have any concerns about meeting in person?
The staff is okay. The straw poll that we sent out, I think part of the reason for maybe recommending the MUDs defer one more month, the majority of the respondents were ready to meet in person, but there were quite a few directors that asked that, no, we wait another month. And so that in consideration of those that did want to wait, that was part of the rationale, but I think behind making that recommendation. But no, we're available.
How about the rest of us? Does anybody here have a concern?
Well, I would just as soon have it be August. I don't know about the July meeting. I'm having surgery on the 13th of July, and I don't know if I'll be up and out by the 21st or not. I know I will not be able to drive to the meeting on the 21st. I would have to have somebody drive me.
My viewpoint is, you know, August is fine by me. I think, you know, 1 month doesn't really make that much of a difference. And if there was somebody on the board that didn't want July, then I would defer to that person because I think it's kind of a decision that has to be unanimous, just because it has so many health implications.
Right.
Well, technically, it doesn't have to be unanimous. It has to be a 3-2 vote.
In my mind, I would want
Okay.
it. In my mind, I would want that to be something that everybody was agreeable to, not a split vote.
I would prefer August myself. I mean, I could definitely be in person in August. I'm just not sure about the July timeframe.
This is Mark Bondero. I'm prepared to meet in July, and I'm also prepared to pick you up, Margie, and bring you to the meeting and then deliver you back safely to your humble abode. With that being said, let's see, George, you seconded it. I'm going to call the vote. Mark Bondero, and that is the motion to start meetings in July, correct?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
And that is, I'm assuming that when we say we're going to meet again in July or August, we're going to go back to the old format, and the meeting will be recorded, audio recording, but no video recording. And I'm assuming that applies also to the Board of Trustees. I don't know. I see the Board of Trustees meeting being recorded, a video recording is useful. And it would be a step backward, at least for them, to go to just nothing published.
George, this is Scott. I made that comment at the end of the trustee meeting, and I was making it during an unpublished agenda item, and so there wasn't much discussion about it. I don't know if it's recorded, video or audio or otherwise. There were some people that said yes, and some people that said no. So to me, that is an unknown. I don't know if Jim, you want to clarify anything about that here.
Shelley, help me remember. I don't think the trustee meeting has an official recording.
I used to provide the recording if somebody asked for it. But it wasn't published anywhere.
Yeah, I think, I don't remember.
So I agree with your comment, George. Obviously, that is a step backwards. I think having the video and the audio is important. Otherwise, we're absolutely relying on Shelley's, takes high quality minutes, but it doesn't capture every detail, obviously.
And I just want to take this opportunity, and Brian, you can help me. The minutes of a MUD meeting are not a transcript. They are really just to record the motions and what action was taken.
This is Brian. That's correct. That's what's legally required, is to have minutes of a meeting that, and the purpose of the minutes is exactly as what Jim said, is not a transcript, but to have a record of action taken by the district. Anything above that is really at the discretion of that governing body as to what they put in there. It's not a legal requirement, but it's something that they may choose to do so. And anything else is an aid in preparing those minutes, whether it's notes or whatever. So, this board or another could choose voluntarily to go over and above that, but that's a separate discussion. And I think that's where we kind of left it at the trustee meeting, was that was a separate discussion that we could have under a posted agenda item if the trustee so chose.
All right, well.
We ready to vote? And we are voting to resume the meetings in July, and I'll pick up Margie and take her home. Mark Monroe votes aye. Margie Podjalinsky,
Aye.
George Newman,
Aye.
Deidre Eklund,
Aye.
Scott Custer.
Aye.
See y'all in July.
Right.
I would like to make a motion at this point to request that the Board of Trustees make either audio and or video recording of their meetings and post them out on the website.
And point of order, I don't know that we can actually do that. That's not on our published agenda.
You can do
This
that.
is Brian. That's correct.
Under 20, you can do it for under number 20 when we get
Okay,
there.
what's 20?
Discuss any matters for placement.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can't put a motion out there.
And this is Scott, George. It feels like an incredibly appropriate comment for public comment in a future trustee meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my understanding that they're recorded, correct? And if you want a recording, you can contact staff and they'll send you the recording.
We had a hodgepodge. Some wanted a recording, some did not. The MUDs, because of that inconsistency, I can't remember which ones were recorded and which ones were not. We'll have to.
Today, this is George. Today, you can look at the website and there are YouTube recordings of the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
that
talking
is-
about,
I know.
this was prior to the COVID and the waiver. We had a hodgepodge of some wanting their meetings recorded, others did not. I'm talking about audio recordings. So the code, once the waiver was enacted, we know what we're doing now, but I'm talking
Yes,
about.
it's
going back.
really nice.
Pre-COVID recordings were great, and for our two new directors, Scott and Deidre, if you ever want to listen to a recording on defeasance, there's one out there, and you can, it's great. You ought to listen to it in your spare time.
A recording on what?
Defeasance, I think that was the word.
Yep, that's the word.
We got a good recording on that one. So anyway, life goes on. So let's go to number 15. That would be construction of the Branch Crossing ditch and a repair contract. Jim, are you ready to speak on that?
I think it is for me, Mark. This is Mike.
Oh, Mike, okay.
I think I jinxed myself last month. If you remember last month, I reported that we were 95% done. Just had the hydromold seeding to go to be done by the end of the month. Well, the rains in May kind of caused some erosion and we had to do some repairs, and which we've done now. We did spray it Saturday with the hydromold seeding, and I got the first pay estimate Monday. And that should complete the project with the exception of retainage. I've got some pictures I can show if anybody wants to see the pictures. Well, I don't have them with me. I thought I had them. But
How'd the hydromulching fare, Mike?
well, I hadn't been back there today. I've been in meetings. I wanted to see because we had a pretty good shower yesterday. I'm hoping it watered it in and got it all seeded pretty good, but it may have to be shot again. You don't know. I just don't know.
Okay. All right, any questions for that? Any to Mike? All right, 16. Our goals, 21, 22 goals. George?
Well, I guess I'm seeing this list here that that Jim put together, and I don't have a problem with it.
Da, 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 da.
It's on page 31 in the packet.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to read through it, or are y'all happy with it? I'm looking for guidance.
This is Scott. Can you remind me, please, how we would measure number 3? Improve transparency of MUD 46 management. You refresh me on that one. Was that
Well, let's see, you have, maybe these following ones should be sub bullets.
yeah, that's probably it. That makes sense. So the next
Wait,
two,
I will reformat it.
yeah, well, for dummies like me, you
I know,
may
I
want to
think you're
consider
right.
that.
That was an oversight on our part.
Okay. I got to be spoon-fed sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good, I realize that in corporate America, goals are, measurable. We used to have what they call SMART, specific, measurable, actionable.
Yeah,
I remember what RT is.
I need to be able to know how to prove that I did something
All that.
or agree that I didn't do something. Can't be ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
No, Scott, I don't have any issues with this list.
Okay, and Jim, you're gonna reformat it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Jim loves us. He loves us.
Margie, you got a comment?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks good to me. I mean, we have that there. I didn't know if there was anything we need to be doing to get ready for the day without water in October. I don't know if there's anything we could be doing now to be ready for that.
Yeah. This is Scott. I just suggest, Mark, you consider putting a review of the goal list, maybe every other meeting or something, just so you can see how we've made any progress.
Okay. Discussion on that request by Scott. I think that may be a good idea. We can always talk about it at the end of a meeting if it's not on the agenda. We can maybe talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's ultimately it's part and it's incumbent upon Jim / Mike to just be aware of this list in governing your GM reports or commentary. You know, just because now you'll have a view of how we're trying to interpret the actions of Woodlands Water in the context of this list here. And we'd obviously appreciate, you know, inputs from you on how we work towards awards and all that, and how we help you win them, right? So that seems like that would be a good use of GM report time to me.
I can report that we had an article published in the current AWBD magazine regarding our response during the Great Freeze. But you know, we're kind of AWBD. We've got several of their awards. We're still working on that AWWA one. So
I didn't crack that yet, so I have to do that.
it's a nice one in there.
I'm on the state committee for the Texas section for diversity and inclusion, but I can ask around. We had a presentation from AWA National Tuesday on some initiatives that they're doing. So I can forward you what information I have on A Day Without Water. I think I may have it from the city of Houston, their marketing campaign from 2 years ago, possibly. And I can send you what AWA Texas section has.
Okay. Do we know what date in October that's going to be? Do we have any idea?
We do. It's like a national thing. I just don't.
Okay.
They
Just
have a lot of initiatives. You know, what is that when like save water, drink wine or something? Like they have a lot of initiatives going on.
Okay.
Mud 46 wine. I think that's a great idea. Don't you, Deidre? Look at that smile, everybody. Come on with it. All right, Mud 46 wine. It is fun, folks. It is fun. Okay, we're gonna go to 17. Mud 46, Bear Branch, Panther Branch, Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvement Concept. Do y'all all have copies of the?
Well, I'm asking now. I'm stumbling a little bit. Did you get your copy of the insert that was in your packet that had a map of drainage areas and drainage improvements, like clouded? Did everybody get that document?
Yes, yeah, I got it. If
Very
you picked up the paper packet in the paper packet.
And then Monday, after the Metro Center MUD meeting, we sent out a Excel spreadsheet that I can share on the screen here, but I'm hoping that you got that as well as a.
Shelley sent it to us. We got it from Shelley.
I got it.
Okay, so let me make just as a brief recap. You probably have heard me talking about this project for quite a while now. MUD 67 took the lead in sponsoring a drainage improvement project for Bear Branch, Panther Branch, and Research Forest Drive, and the application to the Texas Water Development Board for funding assistance on that. There's two components to this project. One are the obvious neighborhood and church and school drainage improvements that will be a big benefit to quite a few homes and churches and schools in the area. And then the other benefit is having Research Forest Drive as a passable, usable thoroughfare during a major rain event. We discovered quite a few years ago that Research Forest Drive was actually designed to be inundated around the Woodlands High School and around the Bear Branch soccer fields during a 100-year storm. The pavement is below the base flood elevation. So this project would provide some really significant drainage improvements for neighborhoods, school, churches, and also keep Research Forest Drive passable during these major rain events. So there's a drainage component and we call a commerce and mobility component. And the drainage component is primarily Mud 7. Do you see my screen?
No.
No,
Oh, excuse
we
me.
not.
Excuse me. Bear with me.
But I'm looking at a satellite image painted on and then a split of money. Okay, yeah, here you go.
Now, so the drainage component is primarily the benefits are Mud 67, this large area here, Mud 47, the area south of Bear Branch in here, a large drainage ditch here, and then Mud 7, small cul-de-sac here, and then a number of homes along here. So those are benefits that those three muds are going to receive. The
Jim, you stop sharing, just share.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I gotta bear with me. Okay, now the benefit of getting Research Forest Drive open and passable and usable to traffic during these major events would be shared. We're proposing that it be shared by all of the muds that drain into that drainage basin. This map delineates how many acres each of the muds contributes to Bear Branch. Here's Bear Branch, here's the reservoir, here's Kirkendall, here it comes on down to Gosling. This map depicts the number of acres that each of those muds contributes to the Bear Branch drainage system where the improvement is being considered. Mud 46 has a large component here and a kind of a middle component up here. So when you take all of those acres and you, bear with me again. Over here, these are the percentage of each of the muds that drain into Bear Branch in that region. Earlier this week, Metro saw the benefit from a commerce and mobility standpoint to help what I call the Central Business District in the Metro Center, the business area that utilizes research. They would contribute $1 million to this roughly $10 million project. So each of the muds then would pay a 2% of $2 million. You take the $3 million commerce and mobility benefit, subtract 1 million that Metro is going to contribute. So you take 6.5% of 2 million is this. Mud 46 would be 22.8% of 2 million is about $456,000. So you take all of these different allocations and you put the totals over here. And this is what we're suggesting would be a reasonable allocation to keep this project going and utilize the funding that Mud 67 has secured, or funding assistance. Mud 67 will be bearing the majority of the expense at right at $5 million. But it's again, we're recommending that Mud 46 participate only as your portion contributes to the drainage area to try to get the Research Forest Drive open and usable during major rain events. So with that, I will, Brian,
What
do you have
budget
any?
did this come out of? What What budget does this come out?
Well, your contribution would come out of your operating.
Operating,
account.
okay, that's.
That's my thought today. Brian, you want to make some additional comments on it?
This is Brian. So where we are right now is that we're trying to line up this month a sense of districts' willingness to participate in this program so that we can identify whether or not we have a deal moving forward. Mud 67 has indicated that they are only going to move forward with the project if there are participants in some form or fashion that are willing to put up half or more of the cost of the project. And so Jim has worked up the spreadsheet that allocates benefits among various parties. If all of the partners are willing to move forward, and of course, there's the understanding that we may possibly be able to get the township, maybe the county. I think that both are uncertain and not to be expected at this point, just in case. That even assuming we don't have those other partners among the other MUDs, do we have an agreement to participate in this project to move forward? If so, then we would prepare an interlocal agreement among the districts that would set out the various terms of the arrangement, and then MUD 67 would move forward with their bond issue through the Water Development Board. What's driving the train right now is the Water Development Board's bond issue schedule in approving the 0% interest loan. They have set a deadline to close at the end of November, and there is a one-time extension option of up to 3 months that is available, and 67 is pursuing that extension now to give a little bit more time to get all this structure in place. But they do not want to move forward with the bond issue unless there's a commitment among the other partners to put up the remainder of the cost. So the way it would be structured is that the MUDs except 67 would put up cash from either their capital projects fund reserves, if they have any after the wireless water meter program, or from some of their surplus operating funds into an escrow account. And then MUD 67 would put the proceeds of the bonds into that escrow account. And then those funds would be used for the design, advertisement bid, et cetera, and other related administrative costs, including the related bond issuance costs for the project. And that would have a true up at the end of the project. And if it comes out under or over, the parties would true up at that time, except for Metro. Metro would not be a part of the true up process. They're providing a one-time lump sum amount, and that would be the end of their involvement. So that's what we're looking to try to get in place. Today, we're just looking for an indication from MUD 46 as well as the other MUDs that we're talking to about whether or not the district is willing to participate in this project at the estimated amount. And everybody understands that these numbers are very preliminary at this point until LGA does additional engineering and environmental work. But assuming it's a $10 million project, it would be based on pro rata, taking out the Metro portion of the other districts. So if the district is comfortable participating at that amount and authorizing the preparation of the interlocal agreement going forward, that would allow for this project to move forward. So that's really where we are for today, and hopefully will be something that this board would be interested in doing. I think your reserves on page 18, and we've talked about this district many times before. Your capital project funds, those are going to be going to the AMR, but the district does have a healthy operating reserve even after we finish up the wireless water meter program to be able to participate in this without putting the district in an adverse or difficult financial position. Happy to
Brian,
answer
I have,
questions,
this
Jim
is
or Ron.
George. I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, the statement is that this isn't in our 2021 budget. So I'm thinking that really, we can make an agreement that, yeah, well, this sounds good to us, but when we start talking about moving money to escrow, we really ought to have it planned out in our budget. I'm picturing, I don't know when that contribution needs to be made, but I'm thinking you're saying something after the bond has been approved. Is that true?
This is Brian. So it would likely be, it would definitely be in the next fiscal year. So if budgeting is the focus, then I don't think that's an issue, because I'm anticipating that the interlocal agreement would be entered into hopefully in the next couple of months, so that 67 could begin the bond issuance process. But we would not likely have the districts put their money into escrow until right toward the end of the year, and then 67 would have to put their funds in immediately upon the closing of the bonds. But it would definitely be in the next fiscal year for you to be able to put that in there.
So my memory is that we have about $3.5 million left over at the end of this year in our plan. So, to this basically take out $500,000 needs to be put in our budgeting for next year.
This is Brian. That's correct. And that wouldn't be a problem from a timing perspective if the district is willing to move forward and participate and partner in the project.
Okay, can I repeat this back to make sure that I'm completely understanding what's going on? So the intersection of Gosling and Research Forest is impassable during storm events. Is that correct?
No, it is around the Woodlands High School. The Woodlands High School becomes parking lot is completely inundated, and around Cat's Cradle is underwater. And then the other location is near the Bear Branch soccer fields. Let me get back to my screen. I'm going to exit this one.
Yeah, I don't drive over there very often, so I don't know.
It's a major problem.
Happened multiple storms. Harvey was, and anytime we get a lot of street ponding happens.
Okay, I'm a visual person too, so any picture.
Bear with me. I'm going to get there.
You can tell me a whole story, and I'm not going to remember it unless I have a picture.
Can y'all see the diagram now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Here's the Woodlands High School.
Starting, it's trying.
Okay.
Okay, I've got it. The Woodlands High School.
Right here, and this is all of this area is completely inundated, and here's Research. It's not passable there, and then it goes underwater again in this area right here.
In a regular storm event or?
Major storm event.
Major storm event.
Yeah.
Okay, not like a 2-year storm.
But and here, like I said, it was designed to be inundated during a 100-year event. Well, since Allison back in 2001, it's been underwater 5, 6, 7 times. So,
We've had this 6, 7 times a year event.
Yeah, so
Every
it's becoming a real, again, a mobility issue and commerce in many people's opinion, because you're completely cut off if you're out in the western portion of the wood, because the only other east-west thoroughfare is Woodlands Parkway, or to go up to 242.
Okay.
So this major thoroughfare becomes unusable essentially from Gosling all the way back to 1488.
So are the events just getting bigger than what were planned? Is that?
We're having more 100-year events than we used to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the thought process is you're going to clear these channels and you're going to clear these detention ponds. I've never even seen it.
The concept, right now it's a concept that's been vetted through the Army Corps of Engineers, is to improve the channel to more of a defined trapezoidal. If you go back in that area, there's a pilot channel there now, but it meanders and it's not well defined. So the intent is to make it more defined with a trapezoidal cross section and do some clearing. Much of that area is completely underbrush. You can't even see, 10 feet. So it would be thinning out the underbrush, leaving large trees where it would be like a linear park where you could stand in that area and throw a Frisbee. So it would change the existing conditions somewhat, but it would be in some ways converting them to where it was in more of a public amenity, park-like setting.
Okay, and then you broke it out between muds that are getting a direct drainage and detention benefit and muds that are getting a mobility benefit, being
Correct.
able to use the roadway in this area.
Yeah, well, and the muds for the mobility and commerce benefit, those that are the ones we're allocating the cost based on your drainage area, what drainage area you contribute to this problem.
Okay, now are areas outside these muds contributing to this problem? Areas outside Woodlands water mud?
No.
Okay, so
Metro Center mud is contributing $1 million because they see the benefit from a commerce standpoint and mobility benefit.
no, I mean, are anything outside the muds contributing drainage wise? Are they impacting?
Oh, you mean muds outside of no, well, if you go, let me go back to that diagram.
And where I'm going with this is are there potential partners outside of our area, our muds that are contributing and impacting this area? And would it be more of a county having to have some contribution to the improvement of the road system?
We, Montgomery County Precinct 3, we have asked them to contribute. Their assistant county engineer said he took some exception to the cost benefit ratio calculation and convinced the county commissioner Nowak that it was not a worthwhile project.
This is in precinct 2 though, right?
Nowak, precinct, what is he? No, this
Yeah,
is
he's
Nowak.
precinct 3, but I was thinking it was part of precinct 2.
Majority of it's precinct 2, precinct 3.
I see.
But Deidre, to answer your question, yeah, there's some contribution coming outside of the Woodlands, but they have detention that in theory, they're not contributing more water to the Woodlands than what they did pre-development. So to go to areas that are outside the Woodlands, I don't know that we could be successful.
Okay, yeah,
But
I was
do-
looking at your drainage boundaries, so that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, we do plan again on, approaching the Woodlands Township, and Director Bruce Reeser has told me that he thinks the county should participate, and he indicated he would be contacting County Judge Mark Keogh to talk about his participation. So we'll see how that goes. But I think what we're asking today is, to get support for this. And if we can get some other partners over the next few months, that's great. And we're going to try. But unless we can get some commitment from our MUDs, it may not go through.
This is Scott. May I ask a question, or are you finished, Deidre, or do you have some others?
No, go ahead, ask your question.
I'd like this mobility component, so Deidre touched on it, but I have a slightly different question. It is a possible metric to derive value. My question is, how did you come up with 30% of the project cost being allocated as commerce and mobility benefit versus 70% as drainage benefit? Where'd that come from?
It was a roundtable discussion with a number of professional engineers, and what did we think was reasonable? There was no formula. It was just, what do we feel like is reasonable in this case?
Okay, so and to be clear, the only reason MUD 46 is named is because A, we drain into the waterway, which I get, but B, we're correlating that somehow into mobility benefits on research forest. And I understand we're trying to come up with a fair metric, but how do you tell a ratepayer in MUD 46 that we're effectively charging our account for road improvements on Research Forest Drive? How would you answer that question?
This is Brian. So I think that Jim.
Well, I think most
had
people in the woodland want to have drainage that's appropriate during these huge
I'm
rainstorms.
sure they do, but Margie,
And
the
I don't
question
think
is,
they tell
who
them.
owns mobility? Who owns mobility? It isn't the MUDs.
This is Brian. I think the mobility is a bit of a misnomer. That's more, I think, focused in commerce for Metro. As far as that top column, Jim, isn't that a result of the number of, did you say that was the number of homes as opposed to the bottom column was based on acreage?
No. The 30%, allocating 30% of the 10 million was a judgment call, and then MUD 46's portion is based on the acres that drain into Bear Branch and contribute to the problem.
Correct. But the actual percentages of between the various districts in that top category is based on homes within the district. It's so there's a metric there for the number of homes that benefit from the project and then acreage draining into it. So it all ties back, Scott, to drainage. I mean, this is a drainage project. It's not a road project. It does benefit the mobility, which of course improves property values, et cetera. But make no mistake, it's a drainage project.
Okay, well, to be clear, as stated in the public domain on this document, 30% of the value of this project is being represented as a mobility benefit. And 100% of MUD 46 contribution is being positioned as a mobility benefit. And the MUDs do not own mobility. I cannot
I think a
support
better
it as
description would be
documented.
a homeowner benefit. Homeowner benefit. I think would be
Okay.
a better description.
Then the math here doesn't represent the homeowners in MUD 46 along the impacted areas.
I think I'm kind of struggling with the same thing that Scott is talking about, is how do I explain this to my neighbor if we choose to move forward? I can completely understand that, yes, 46 residents use that road. That's just where I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with maybe the 30%, maybe the way that it's presented. Maybe if it's related to mobility, there's traffic studies, so we can figure out how often that road is used and apply that possibly percentage wise. But if it's mobility to keep it open, wouldn't that be every mud in the woodlands? Wouldn't that be the entire woodlands?
To break the silence, we've got a little less than 10 minutes before the next meeting is scheduled to start. So
Well, I would like to add a point to Scott, and that is not all of Mud 46 or not all of Sterling Ridge drains into Bear Branch. A good part drains over into Spring Creek. And so really the math needs to be worked on some more, I think, to represent what actually flows into Bear Branch.
And if I didn't explain that well enough, that was the diagram that we showed the drainage areas going into Bear Branch. We're not allocating Mud 46 portion that drains into Spring Creek. That's not part of this calculation.
Could you show your map again?
Yeah.
These maps are available at the office. They were in the paper packets.
Okay, the area, Mud 46 has a large component that drains into Spring Creek. Here is the drainage boundary line. This
I
portion
see.
goes
Okay,
down.
okay,
From
good.
here it goes into Bear Branch. So we've isolated only the Mud 46 property that drains into Bear Branch upstream of the project and upstream of Gosling.
Okay, thank you.
I want to get Scott's spoon out and use it, spoon feed me here. If we contribute this money, are we going to get paid back in any way, with any grant, Texas Water Development Board, whatever, or is that just money we take out and spend and going down the road?
This is Brian. It would not be recovered. It would be a contribution to the larger project, and by doing it through the Water Development Board, it would allow for there to be some level of grant funds that would be contributed toward the project.
Okay.
But those grant funds would help pay for some of the costs of the project. It wouldn't be a reimbursement per se for the districts. It'd just be a less of a contribution because there's less of a pie to have to split up.
Gotcha.
And
I recommend that we have a special meeting, table this to next month, whatever the board's wishes, but we've got another meeting that needs to start in 6 minutes. What's the board's, we can have another meeting, we can table it to next month.
Move it to next month's agenda, and maybe by then we'd have a little more information.
Okay, move it to next month's agenda. All right. Jim, give us a 2-minute general manager's report.
Okie dokie. We talked about TACUS and re-invoicing TACUS for the prime contractors that worked under TACUS with the direction of our outside legal counsel. Just the update from Hark is in your packets, and their the comments to Lone Star regarding their phase 2 subsidence report. Later on this week, we'll be doing a press release regarding Hark's report on where additional subsidence monitoring should occur throughout Montgomery County. We're still looking at options for relocating AMI poles. As I think emphasized to Scott, that staff is not recommending the poles be relocated. We're just going to prepare information for the directors and trustees to look at it and make a decision. And then we're continuing to try to work with lobbyists and consultants to position ourselves to take advantage of any Biden infrastructure funds that may be approved through that administration in the next few months. That's a quick summary.
Okay. 19, Woodlands Water Trustee, Scott.
Super quick version. I want to compliment Jim on his work with TACUS, getting to an outcome where we are now billing the subcontractors directly. I think you did a great job, Jim, in making that happen. We had a cybersecurity report from the consultant that described the security measures in place in lieu of the pipeline, Colonial Pipeline issues. There's a large summary there in the packet. And the last thing I'll mention that regarding the poll, I do appreciate your work, Jim, on collecting options. I would encourage you to get us to a vote on that as soon as possible. Put that one to bed. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Number
And
20.
we did, the trustees passed a proclamation complimenting staff on work during.
Thank you for mentioning that.
With a one-time employee bonus.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Number 20, discuss any matters for placement on future agenda. George, now's your time.
I'm all right. Put some discussion of recording of meetings, both our meeting and the Board of Trustees.
Okay. All right.
Mark, before we go, I want to give a shout out to Carrie. I've had to call twice about water leakages. There was a big thing over at Wilkerson this week. She is always on the ball. She knows exactly what's happening, and she does a heck of a job there at the trouble desk. So I really want to say thanks to Carrie at the trouble desk.
We will pass that on.
Y'all are
She's
running
doing
a good
great
show.
job here.
Thank
All
you.
right. I got 2 minutes to spare. Motion to adjourn. Aye. Go get you a glass of Mud 46 wine or whatever, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.